Welcome, everybody. It's wonderful to have people here, even if it's only virtually. And I'm very pleased to be talking to Andrea Bellini this evening. Andrea is the director of the Centre d'Art Contemporain in Geneva, which is our new partner for the Han Nefkens Foundation Loop Barcelona Video Production Award collaboration with the Juan Miró Foundation here in Barcelona. And Andrea, I think we have a lot of things in common. Obviously, it's our love of video art. It's also our desire to make exhibitions, to make something seen. I know you're also very interested in writing. And from what I've seen, you're particularly interested in pushing the boundaries and looking for borders and going perhaps a little bit more. You know, I saw the word outside artists. I feel that you're always investigating new ways and new borders. I think we have that in common because I do that as well, perhaps even in a more physical way because our foundation works with so many artists in other parts of the world. But if I look at these different aspects, I think the one thing both of us have in common is this urge that we feel to share. Do I see that right?
Yeah, thank you, and this is the most beautiful introduction I could have. So good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are, to the people that are listening to us. Yes, thank you, and yeah, I think we do share many things. I think also the approach to video art in general, because we are both focused on the idea of production, like produce artworks, such an important thing. And yeah, to talk about this and to talk about boundaries, maybe I can start telling you about the biennial moving images that we run.
Please do, yeah.
That we run as a Kunsthalle here in Geneva. When I came here in 2012, I became director of the Centre d'Art Contemporain in Geneva, and I was asked to run also the biennial moving image. And I don't know you, but I was like kind of like fed up by biennials, or maybe I was kind of like bored even by curators. I was fed up by curators because I think we have had too much attention and too much space. So I had this problem to see biennials where, you know, the real star, the real personality was the curator, and the curator was asking the artworks to illustrate her or his own curatorial team, which I found a little bit strange in a certain sense. So what I decided to do, I was like, I do have a good budget. Maybe we do like a step back as curators. We will not have any team, any curatorial team. We will just select between 15 or 25 artists, and we will give them the budget to produce a brand new piece. Mm-hmm. So our biennial, I think, is the only biennial in the world who presents essentially like new video works. Like, so we also developed like a protocol, and this protocol we say that we are supposed to invite artists 2 years before the biennial. We have to provide the budget to make a brand new piece, and we are also supposed to help them, to support them, to really assist them to any level of the production. So this is the way we build up the biennial, and since 2014, so we made 3 biennials. Since 2014, we produced 84 artworks, which means almost an artwork every month. So we are really like totally into production, and this is also, as I see, like the goal of your own institution, your own activity. That's why for us it's very important, this collaboration, because I think we have to find allies, like we have to find friends all around and the people we can speak to.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And I like the fact that you mentioned that it's not only funding the production, it's much more than that. It's accompanying the artist throughout the creative process, which of course, for artists, it's very nice to have a sounding board when they're working, because as a writer, I know that it can be a very solitary occupation. You're by yourself with your thoughts. Sometimes it's very difficult to take distance. You need other people to tell you that really you should perhaps go another way or open up a little bit more. So that's one of the things that we provide with the artists that we work with. So it's good for the artist, but it is wonderful for us, you know, to be there at the beginning of a creative process and be as a midwife, as it were, you know, going through all these different stages with the artist until the work is done. And it's talking with the artist, which isn't only helpful for the artist, but for us as well, because it really forces us to focus on what the artist is doing, to think about the goal. And then there are all the little practical aspects that an artist might need, something with sound, something with camera, etc., that we can provide as well. So in that sense, production is a really hands-on activity. You really feel involved. I don't know if you experience that as well.
Yeah, certainly. I was thinking that, you know, like the moving image is something very specific in this sense, because we are not like producing, like working with artists that are like just making a painting. So you would not say a painter, listen, maybe the sun should be red. You know, this is something you cannot do or you wouldn't do. But with the moving image is a little bit different, and I think that this is really like it changed a little bit the meaning of the production and of the idea of working together. Because with the moving image, it's not like with cinema where like when you are editing a film you can make like super important decisions, but in a certain sense. For the artist, it's important to speak with somebody that has a knowledge about the moving image, that it can give advices, etc. So it's like it's really like a language, a visual language that it's really like made for a kind of like interesting collaboration. So that's why I think it's so interesting for both of us to work in this field and to really to focus on the moving image, because this is another thing we share. It's really the big passion for the moving image, and it became so important, moving image, because also to like to create like a wider audience for the art world, for contemporary art, because today like everybody is kind of like used to see like videos and moving image everywhere, and the moving image made by artists can be really something that, you know, allow us to speak like to a wider audience. And this is what we experience with the moving with the biennial moving images, and I think this is the most important thing in this sense, like to work with the artist and to really, like as you say, not just like providing money you know, for production, but really like to work with them and to help them and to assist them in the making of the piece.
Yeah, I think one of the other aspects that is so special about what we do is I used to be an art collector in a previous incarnation a very long time ago, when I would go to galleries and to art fairs and buy art that would go immediately to the different museums I work with. So I started looking at art and buying art from perspective of a bigger place to show it. It was not my own living room. You know, it was always in collaboration with art institutions. Still, of course, I had the tendency to always go to the things that pleased me aesthetically. It was very much what I liked. And now with production, as you say, we don't have a theme. We just choose together with the art institutions a different artists and they start working. And very often, it's not at all the aesthetic that I'm used to. It forces me really to appreciate and to look at something very new, something very different. And I think that's particularly for somebody who is 66 years old, it's very good to be forced to look at new things, you know, to not stick to what you know. And we've had very good experiences with artists. I'm sure you have that too.
Yeah, but this is, I was thinking about what you were saying, like in your previous life as a collector. I read somewhere that you had a sort of like epiphany with art when you were visiting in Paris in '99 an exhibition at Musée de la Ville de Paris, and you just saw this masterpiece by Pipilotti-Rist, who is like a Swiss artist, and she had like one of the first solo exhibition in an institution at Centre d'Art Contemporain in Geneva during the 90s. So this is another thing, strange thing we share.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, so like, because I do have a different story, you know, in this sense, but for you, like this epiphany was like really like entering like a moving image, like total artwork that really like was like something physical for you.
Yes, well, you know the work of Pipilotti. When you enter an artwork of Pipilotti, you don't just look at it, you know, you become part of it, you're enveloped by it. It embraces you, as it were. So this is not something you should sort of walk through and leave, because it's much too intense for that. It's the visual aspect, but with Pipilotti, it's of course also the music, it's the rhythm, it's the whole atmosphere. And it was particularly that whole environment that captivated me. You know, somebody, an artist, is able to provide you with a different reality that you become part of. That for a moment, well, in this case, it was about 3 hours, you lose yourself and you feel that you become part of something bigger, which is the artwork. And I think that was the experience that triggered this feeling that I wanted to be part of it. And I like to do things. So just buying something and hanging it in my house was not enough for me. I wanted something that would continue to give life, as it were, because art is made to be seen, and I wanted to be part of making it possible to be seen. And so from Pipilotti Rist, we ended up here.
So I think we all have to thank Pipilotti Rist, because she provided like such an extraordinary collectors and patron, because we have been really...
And Hans Ulrich Obrist, who was the commissioner of the...
especially to Hans, yes, of course. So, but I'm very interested in the way you choose the things to produce, because I think in this sense we have like a different method, in the sense that in the case of the biennial on moving image, every 2 years I choose like a group of co-curators, so with different background that come from like different part of the world, and we select the group of artists. And so we select them, and then we commission a brand new piece without imposing any theme. What's your method? How do you choose the work to produce?
Well, Andrea, you were part of it when we had the jury meeting for the Look Barcelona award. So what we do is, for the different awards that we have around the world, the ones with the Fundación Miro, focused on Asia, ones with the Fundación Tapies, that's focused on Central Asia and the Middle East. We have one in Korea, one in different parts of the world, different geographic areas. So we begin with asking different scouts in those areas, and those scouts can be curators, or journalists, or other artists, people that we consider have true knowledge of what's going on. We ask them to come up with 3 artists that they consider would be the most helped by this award. We have about 10 scouts, so we get 30 artists. And I want you to imagine just the pleasure of opening up the file that comes flying into my computer, and then I see works by 30 artists. Most of them I haven't even seen before, I haven't known of. Each of them 4 or 5 videos, so I spend days, if not weeks, being immersed again in the work of artists from Cambodia, from India, from Pakistan, from Ecuador, from Thailand. This is such a pleasure. You know, when I do that, I say, oh, Han, you've given yourself a great gift by being able to look at these different artists. So we draw up from this long list, a short list, the art institutions that we work with, because every award is with different art institutions, like the one you form part of is being shared with ILA in Kuala Lumpur, Art Sonje in Seoul, the Inside Out Museum in Beijing. I might even have forgotten someone.
Yeah, many others, yeah.
Huh? Yeah. Well, anyway, five different partners we have. We all draw up a short list. Of course, there are often overlappings that we choose the same artist, but in the end, we end up with about 6 or 7 artists. And then we have a jury meeting like the one you were part of and decide who is going to be the winner. And the criteria are, of course, that it has to be an artist with potential, but also that it must be an artist who's really helped by the award. For example, an artist who has already shown at Tate Modern or at MoMA might not really need our award as much as somebody who has shown regionally, but not really internationally. And generally, well, you were present there. Generally, after we've talked for about an hour, there are generally about 2 or 3 candidates that everybody agrees is the best one. And then we decide which of those 2 or 3 will be the winner. And we've never had a jury meeting where we voted. I don't like that. I feel that everybody should be, particularly, all these art institutions are going to show the artists. So they have to be really convinced that this is work that they want to show, that they feel good about. So we talk about it. And until we all come to a unanimous decision, basically. That's what happened. You were part of the jury as well.
I confirm this happened with us. And no, it's such a wonderful process. I mean, like, in this moment of my life, I'm kind of convinced that, the method is the most important thing, like to just develop a good method,
Yeah.
So less ego and like more interesting methods around. I think this is the most important thing. Also because the method you developed and we are also developing is about also to help artists and video artists who they actually don't have very often like a market or a strong market to make the artworks, because it's super difficult for them just to find the budget to make the piece. So we are really trying to provide this budget, especially also in this moment where like the economy of the art world is completely erased.
Yeah.
So, for example, I met like recently Aziza Zara, who is the artist that is going to show at Centre d'Art Contemporain, and you produced the piece by him. I met him in Geneva. He's such an amazing guy, like coming from Afghanistan, and he was in Geneva in residency, and I know that he has like a lot of difficulties like to make a living, and of course like having a budget to make like a brand new piece is really extraordinary, because I think this is a very special moment, for artists, and this lockdown is like kind of like destroying the fragile economy they had. So I think it's if we have like a love letter to send to the world for the post-pandemic world, is like this love letter is to institutions, and we tell institutions to pay the artist fee, for example, and to help the artist to produce artworks. This is super important. For example, with the biennial moving image, I saw the budget I had, and I said half of the budget will go for production. And I cut budget for communication, I cut budget on other things which weren't so important, I think. And I really I really gave the money to the artists like in order to make artwork, which is the most important thing. So, I think in this sense, the biennial moving image in Geneva is a sort of, I used to say it's a sort of living paradox, because other biennial, they exist because they get existing artworks. On the contrary, I would say that thanks to the biennial moving images, today, after 3 editions, 84 artworks exist thanks to the biennial. So, which is like a very different dynamic, and I think it's becoming more and more important today.
Yes, and you're very right to mention how difficult the situation for artists is, for all artists, but particularly video artists at the moment. We've experiencing that people are waiting for exhibitions to open because they're being postponed. People have problems producing. So we came up with an idea. We started an award for online video production. It's a small award. It's 5,000 euros. And we're collaborating with the ILA Gallery in Kuala Lumpur for the first one, and they're going to look for 2 other partners in Southeast Asia. And the idea is that among all of us, we choose an artist the same way as we always do. And we ask this artist to make an online video, which is very different than putting an existing video online, because the requirements of a video that you show in a museum environment is very different from what you show online. So that is something that's to be taken into account. We're gearing this towards young artists. At the moment we start in Southeast Asia, and I want to expand to all parts of the world where we're needed. And the idea is that through the platforms of these different partners that we have and through our social network, just put those works online. Artists and go from one to the other. I think the advantage is that we can help an artist pretty quickly, and the work can be seen pretty quickly. And since it's a young artist, this might be an artist that we want to work later in a different environment, in a museum environment, when things have calmed down a little bit, when we're able to see them. And we have a way of expanding our network as well, which is very important. So this is what we're trying to do at the moment, to make life a little bit easier for some people.
Yeah, that's very interesting. This is another thing actually we share. I discover like more and more things. We are actually doing something like this for our digital extension of the Centre d'Art Contemporain. We do have like on our website, you can push like a red button and you go to the virtual extension of the institution, which is called the 5th floor. The 5th floor is the floor we do not have in the building, because in the building in Geneva, we only have 4th floor.
Yeah.
So the 5th floor is the digital one. And in this digital floor, we do have a radio with just music, like a super interesting, super cool radio. Then we do have a section called works. And in this section, we present works we commission for this digital platform, like you. And then we also present like works that were like, created for the internet, for this kind of fruition. So this is actually a little bit the same approach. And I think it's super important because more and more artists are like working on this. And with the confinement, with the lockdown, actually, we have seen very interesting pieces made by artists like for the web. So you're totally right. One thing is an installation like the one of Pipilotti wrist, which is like created in the space, and another thing it's a piece which is like presented on the web, which is like a completely different thing. So we are also working on this, and maybe we can like also work together on this.
That would be very nice. Andrea, there's one thing I noticed when we talked this past 20 minutes. How you talked about the ego of
curators.
Of curators. I was almost afraid to say it out loud. How that ego overshadows almost. It's a little bit like the artists are in service of the ego of curators. The same goes with collectors. Art is like a trophy for collectors. Look, I bought whatever. And this whole cultivation of ego is obviously not becoming less with social media. Everybody has his or her platform to have these orgies of egoism there. And you mentioned several times that you want to get away from that. And so this is another thing I share with you. I would like to think of our foundation as being post-ego. I'm not sure if we succeed in that, but it is something we want to keep in mind. For us, the artist is always the most important. It's not. We don't have another agenda other than supporting artists. And we talked a little bit earlier about the outside artist and going beyond borders, but perhaps in being or having being post-ego as a goal, we're also a little bit outside of what's going on at this moment. What do you think?
Yes, well, this is a very important issue, and I think we like daily, every morning, we have to fight with ourselves and with our
Yeah,
ego.
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
I think it's a discipline, it's something that you have to work with yourself constantly. But I totally agree. For example, also the idea of like owning an artwork, the idea that the issue of collecting, it's only about like owning something, possession, like to possession, like to buy something and to have it in a crate in your storage. This is another, I think, very complicated attitude. For example, I know that you have been buying things that now are on loan, like maybe correct me, but I think almost 500 like
Yes,
main
that's correct.
major artworks are like on loan to museums, and you already say that when you will not be here anymore, the artworks will belong to the museum, so you have already like donated them.
Yeah.
I think that not owing, it's a beautiful thing, and I think that we share also this, that culture and contemporary art are like something that can produce reality and can produce meaning, and it's not about like buying objects or like showing objects in a living room. This is so depressive, this is so sad. Actually, I think both of us, we consider art as a beautiful adventure, as something that can change the sensibility of society, that can change the atmosphere. So I think this is really like the direction that we decided to get.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. I feel that ownership is always an illusion, but with art, even more so. Because art is made to be shared with other people, to be seen by the rest of the world. So owning a piece of art is almost like a contradiction in terms, I feel. Sometimes ownership is let's say, an administrative way of dealing with art. I was the owner of the artworks that I lent or gave to the different museums because, well, that's the intermediary that was necessary at the time. But I never have the feeling that this is mine. I don't even know what that's like. What I do feel is that I share this experience of pleasure that an artwork can give me is something that I share with other people. That feeling I do have, but not the feeling of ownership. And with video art, I think that's also perhaps why video art attracted me, because it's very nebulous with video art. There's also no secondary market, so this is not something you do to invest money and make a lot of when you sell it. People who collect video art really do it because they love video art, which means that you're surrounded by a very nice group of people the same way about that. So
Yeah. I grew up in Rome, and I do have the same feeling that ownership. It's something. It's really the the last illusion. You don't own anything, and I think you have to use the things you have just to create relationship and meaning. I was thinking also about your life, like without going too personal, but you were born in Rotterdam, and I know that then you moved to United States, then you went to Mexico. That's why the tribute again, behind me,
great tribute, Andrea.
Mexican tapestry. And then I know already we will not explain how, but you risked twice to die. You were very close to die. Yeah. So I was telling myself, I was thinking about you. I was like, art for him just must be just a way to find meaning. There is no other sense for him about art. It cannot be owning things, cannot be like making money. you are already a healthy person. You don't need to speculate with art. And so it's really something you do with passion and love to find meanings and to create meaning, I guess.
Yes, you're right about that. And the fact that I've been confronted with my own mortality at a young age, 33 years old, when I found out that I had HIV, made it very clear for me that ownership, what do you do with ownership? Really, I mean, that makes it all very relative. That has helped me in a sense. And it also has also helped me to live life to the fullest at the moment. And art is very much a part of that. As you say, it gives meaning, but another part of art is also that I'm very curious about what goes on in the head of other people. I used to play a game when I was young. I would jump into the head of the people that walk by on the street and just imagine what their life was like. Well, I can do that now with art. Artist opens up his or her head, and I can see the way they look at life. And then that is very fascinating, particularly because we work so much in Asia and other cultures. It is really a pleasure and an adventure to look at art from there. Andrea, I would like to thank you very much for this. I have a feeling that we can go on for hours, but I think you talked about discipline. You talked about discipline earlier. Perhaps we should have some discipline and just keep this to half an hour. It was great talking to you, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing our conversation. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thanks to the people that have been listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Bye-bye.